Okay.
Smile.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say to you, I'm really excited to be talking to you. And I want to thank you for braving a topic that many people will run fast from, breaking the ice. Um, it's trust me, it's making a difference to many people. It made a difference to me, for starters. So I know it's making a difference to many people. And the interesting thing is you starting one project from personal lived life experience makes it even more powerful. Because when people come to you and talk to you, you're not second guessing them. You have a clear picture or a clearer picture of what goes on than somebody who's gone to university to study domestic violence and its impact and all these things. So yeah, I'm honored that I'm getting to talk to you about this. My first question is, I know we're talking about domestic violence, but why suicide prevention? Um, as you call Mom Project, it's mainly suicide prevention. Was that because that's what was on your mind following your experience, or was it something that you actually attempted and then survived as a fringe or ripple effect from domestic violence? I'm curious.
Okay, so I started the month. Thank you for having me and doing this today. So suicide prevention, mind over matter. So put the mind to the matter.
Mm.
Yeah, too many attempts of suicide.
Right.
But what I want to say is when we say suicide prevention,
Mm.
prevention is of everything
Yeah.
that comes with that emotion of feeling in the dark place. And what I say to people, so those people that want to run away from the name suicide prevention or run
Mm.
away from the mental health or any particular diagnoses, what I would like to say is that we tackle the underlying issues
Yeah.
of depression.
Mm.
And it's the depression that we're trying to prevent, because once you're depressed, it then escalates into a place where I've got nowhere to talk to, nobody understands what I'm going through. Okay, I don't want to be here anymore. And then we
Mm.
end up doing the self-harm element of it.
Yeah.
That's a big cry for help. Um, and that self-harm can come in many ways: drink, drugs, body mutilation, eat, sleep, shutting off, overeating, more work, plunging yourself into books.
Yeah.
There's a whole list. Silent world.
Mm.
I'm going to read out the list actually that I've come across.
Yeah.
Giving into, the anger comes
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
Physical, mental abuse, all
Mm-hmm.
of those traits that come with domestic violence. What did I say? Domestic violence. Sorry, that comes into play as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. It does.
All of the emotions that come into one feeling depressed and suicidal is that they're already traits
Yeah.
beforehand. And what
Mm.
we try to do is get people to recognize the behavior. But look
Mm.
at the problem. What is the problem with this individual? What are they going through? What is the story? But what
Yeah.
is the immediate issue here? Because they're gone through a level of emotions beforehand of
Mm.
mastering out how or should I tell somebody
Yeah.
what's going on?
Mm.
Am I going to be outcast, shamed? There's so many elements of this. I mean, this is why people avoid the platform or avoid the friends that are in the platform.
Yeah.
And we're making a big, bold statement here. We're
Yeah.
not avoidable. Why would you look at us and think there's something crazy about us? We
Yeah.
master through emotions because we're learning
Yeah.
to get through triggers and everyday issues that are confusing, actually, because people are telling you you should live this life, live that life, do this, do that. Everybody's giving you directions in life.
Mm.
When you look back in our childhood, we've had those directions from birth.
Yeah.
And we've been raised in a situation, in an environment where our lives are being affected by the people and the things around us. So as a child, we can see some pretty awful things, and somewhere along the line, some people are affected by the things that happened. I started a project because I'm a woman that is a survivor from child abuse,
Right.
went on to domestic violence, that then went on to being bullied and manipulated in a big way, that went on to, even with the system, to be able to manipulate myself too, because when you're a victim of crime, you don't know how to communicate properly,
Yeah.
efficiently. The anxiety, the fear, who do I tell, how are they going to act and treat me, are they going to blame me? So
Mm.
all of these things about communication has to be raised. Suicide is not a joke.
No.
I ended up getting a diagnosis, and some people are lucky not to have a diagnosis, to be honest. If they
Mm.
did never tell anyone, they're likely less to have a diagnosis. However, they may be living with some unhealthy coping strategies, experiencing isolation.
That's what I was just about to say,
Isn't a
that
joke.
it's a thin line between whether you say it's good or it's not good that you have a diagnosis, because depending on where you are, sometimes getting a diagnosis helps people to understand where you're coming from, and people might then be supportive. But on the other hand, it might then mean people are going to discriminate you. They're going to take advantage of the diagnosis and abuse you. And it is a thin line, and it's almost like being stuck between a hard surface and a rock.
Rock and hard place.
Um, yeah, and you and if it's then you're a young person, you can't even process that and come up with a right a way forward, which is why you end up approaching an adult, and then it's all blown out of proportion. Even worse if that adult then does not help you appropriately,
Yeah.
which is why I really like that you've got Mom Project, where people can come and safely express themselves without one thing I've learned is telling your story like it is the best way possible, because once you start editing it, you are creating versions of the truth. You are creating a version to suit this type of people. You think, or if they hear it, they're going to think. So you create a version. I went through that phase. You create a version. You don't want to do that. Tell your story like it is. And I think your Mom Project is where people can actually do that safely without fear. And one question I wanted to ask again was, in your experience helping people, do you find that that process of helping people tell their stories and delve into this maze that comes with it, do you find that it helps you as well?
It certainly does. I'm not alone. And it actually helps me to put it to one side and rebuild the life that I'm living now.
Hmm.
It shows me my progression, that I'm not that scared child anymore. I do, and up against stigma,
Yeah.
and the stigma and the people's attitudes towards what I am doing
Hmm.
actually can hurt.
Yeah.
Even though I'm in a position of raising awareness, I'm still living through this. I'm still in recovery. I'm
Hmm.
still, if somebody says or mentions a word, it may retract me back to something that is familiar in my past, but I'm still mustering these emotions. And I think our life is about a big emotion,
Yeah.
and the interaction and the judgment that we get from other people plays a big part of our lives to this day. And what we're trying to do is overcome those judgments to
Yeah.
say, I don't care what you think.
Hmm.
It happened to me. and I'm going to speak out against this. I'm not going to mask, and you will understand. This is my attitude towards it. One way or another, I'm going to shout, and I have to use many platforms to shout as loud as I can about whether it's me talking. I hope it resonates with you in your homes. I hope that you listen and look out for the alarm bells. You know, I was a child once. I never had a voice. It was stifled. I didn't even know I had something to tell because my family environment created that it was the norm. Although I was masking a secret, that groomer taught me to shut up. And ever since, when you become an adult, and even when the groomer's gone, you then walk into the hands of another groomer who recognize you've been groomed already, that vulnerability. And that vulnerability is there for a lifetime. It's there from a child, it's there towards adulthood. And that's why you've got so many people that are on drink, drugs, can't manage their children are in care. The cycle happens again. When the mothers that had their children removed, or parents that, I'm going to say parents, have had their children removed because of abusive relationships, or because of the cycle of abuse, because they've got diagnoses because of abuse, you know, then they're misjudged as well by the system. They're misrepresented by the system. In every single system that I've been accustomed to throughout my own mental health, and I have a diagnosis of emotionally unstable personality disorder. The emotions, it means I'm affected just like anybody.
Like anybody else,
Yeah, but sometimes they can be where I'm going back, where I am now. I'm aware of my recovery. I'm aware of my health. I'm aware of my emotions. But where I was a few years ago, I would have taken on a lot of emotions and self-harmed in a way which is dangerous and landed me in the hospital on more than one occasions. So I am in recovery. And I am regaining and rediscovering my ability to become the most beautiful woman inside and out as much as I can, free from harm of the outside world. But I am judged every day of my life. But this is a test of me. I'm not going to retract back like this as that little girl, because somebody is making a judgment on me. Somebody's trying to direct me and tell me how to grow. I'm 50 years old now. I'm well educated, had parents, became a parent. I'm now a grandmother, and I'll be damned if I let anyone harm my children or my grandchildren, because I will be out there raising awareness. And that's the benefit of being protective, because that's what we've become. Very protective in raising awareness. And I can't master what I see in front of me if I feel that somebody is in where I was, because a lot of people don't even recognize that they're masking stuff. And it took years to come out, but now it's out. I'm going to keep going.
That's the interesting thing. When you're caught up in that deep game of covering up things, you don't actually consciously think I'm masking. You don't actually consciously sit there and say, I'm gonna do A, B, C, D to mask. It's almost like it just slots itself. It slots as you go. And I think one thing, I don't know what you think. I think one thing that feeds into it is that when people speak, the response out there from the system is too much based on what they call research rather than the real lived life stories. They talk about research, and when you ask what research, talking about research that was done 50 years ago. Why don't you deal with what's happening now? Things, life develops, people develop, things change. And so you should be prepared to, if you call it research, that research should be continuous, and they should be talking to people like you who've experienced it, and you can actually ask, you did this, why did you do that? And then you actually have a true answer, not based on somebody who wrote a book 50 years ago responding to things on the perspective of what was going on there. People talk about culture, how culture affects you. People have traveled a lot, so cultures are changing. How
right.
can you help if you keep looking at the culture that is gone? Why don't the powers that be, the researchers, research by taking stories like we're doing, sharing lived life stories where somebody can then ask a question and you can explain it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one reason I feel some people just don't share their stories,
Mm-hmm.
because they're going to be compared to somebody who died 50 years ago, who did what they did on their own terms.
Mm-hmm. Well, these tick boxes,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I mean, okay, so I not only am I a survivor, not only have I a label, and I hate
Mhm.
labels.
Yeah.
Okay, I really when I'm actually going to really give an example of a label and what people do. Hi, yeah, my name is Kerry, and I've got emotionally unstable personality disorder. Hi, my name is Peter, and I'm gay.
Hmm.
I want to know who you are. Isn't that what we want to know? Who you are, who you're becoming.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we know you've got some pain. We know you've got where things have been unacceptable in life. We know that people have stigmatized you and discriminated against you and
Yeah.
persecuted you for the choices that you've made, or even through the um even picked on you for the things that you've gone through.
Yeah.
Become a victim, and then you become a victim again because of
Double victim.
judgment. So when you want people to understand you and you're making it clear, look, this is me. Well, I want you to understand that I was given this label to identify my emotions. So, I'll take that. They gave me that label. When you do the research of it, it says there's no cure. So what that says is there's no hope. So that sends a clear message to people with the same
Even,
label as
yeah.
me. And I
Yeah.
think that's really wrong, because when you leave and you write in anything at the box and say there's no cure, please don't tell me there's no cure. I'm a survivor of it, and I'm a normal human being, the same as anybody else, without a label, that has experienced job loss, bailiffs,
Yeah. Yeah.
hardship, financial ship, grief, losing my mother, cancer, domestic violence, child abuse, rape, date rape, you know locked up in police cells. Police, I don't want to mention the name, what I call injustice within the police, because they don't understand what you've gone through as domestic violence, and then the perpetrator gets away with it, manipulates your mind. So they've got to learn a lot from survivors of that have gone through these things, because the signs are there, they're recognizable, and we will tell you those signs, how to catch a criminal, because that's what this is. It's criminal behavior.
Yeah.
What a lot of people are doing. It becomes even to the point where some of these people to become online cyberbullies,
Yeah.
and then they start to groom people as well. So again, all the grooming process continues online as well. I make the Mom Project, particularly over 18s. Now, I'm quite happy to work with youths too. Okay, but I make the Mom Project over 18s. And the reason why I made it over 18s, although I'm aware that there are youth and the children need help, but the parents over 18, or the people in the public over 18, you have a duty of care.
I was
And
going to ask you about that actually. That do you, when we talking about domestic violence, a lot of people believe that it's only between husband and wife or partners. But if you are partners and your husband and wife, you have children in the house, if you're slapping that child's mother, if you're forcing yourself on that child's mother and they can see that, it's as good as you're slapping them as well.
it becomes mental abuse, because
Yeah.
it's okay. Let's put it in layman's terms for those that don't understand mental health. If you are a bystander on a street and you
Mm.
witness a physical attack on
Mm.
someone, it's going to traumatize you. It's
Yeah.
going to make you not even want to be in the same vicinity maybe next time, or you want to avoid going to the town or something like that. Now, you as an
Mm.
adult have a choice to not be there,
Yeah.
or not go somewhere where you've witnessed something because it's traumatic. But a
Yeah. What
child
about a child? Yeah.
constantly in that situation. Now, I'm responsible as a mother, as a parent, that I put my children through some of that myself because I didn't know any better. I was a child myself growing into this adult world. I was still that inner child that was suffering from bloody abuse. I hadn't told anybody anything. I hadn't able to get police assistance, victim support, domestic helpline. I didn't know the tools that I could do to speak up against it. I then went from child abuse to a victim of domestic violence and mental and physical abuse. Not once, but over and over again. And I realized the patterns in it. Drink, drugs, alcohol, promiscuity, affairs, the whole works. They were doing what they did. I was trying to be a good little wife or whatever it was, and I was being controlled and groomed all over again by the husband or by the boyfriends or by the partners. Groomed, don't go here, don't wear this, don't talk to them, that's too short, put this on, don't wear makeup, you can't go there, I don't want you hanging around with them. And by the way, I know your father's dying. You can only be 2 minutes there and come back because I'm not going to be sure who's going to be in that house. So those are the kinds of things that continue to go on throughout life. And so therefore, where we spread awareness, there's a whole pattern of all of this. And no one is immune from depression. No one is immune from suicide because when things get unbearable, really unbearable, some people say, I would never dream. But I never dreamed. But when your mind has had enough, your mind will switch it down and it will put you into a frenzy of, you might go for the panic, the anxiety, and the I don't know what I'm feeling. But sometimes, I mean, I've heard stories in my own story, your mind shuts it down so well, it goes into a breakdown. And then suddenly, some people experience voices. Some people then don't talk, they can't communicate and end up in the mental health ward. I ended up in the mental health ward for when I wanted to ask for people, help me, help me, help me. Oh, you're not crazy enough. I physically had to do something to get that help. And I said to them, now you're going to help me? Now you can see blood. Are you going to help me? Because this voice keeps telling me I ain't good enough. And that's just me and my conscience. I'm not crazy. I don't hear. It's just me and my conscience talking to myself. This thing is saying I'm not good enough, and these people over here keeps telling me you're definitely not good enough. You're not worth living. You're crap on my shoe. You're telling anyone all these secrets that you're hiding and masking. You've got nowhere to run. So when you've got nowhere to run, no one's going to believe you. And even when you've run for help, and they hand you in a certain way because they can't recognize this panic and alarm and distress, they look at you as she was erratic. They write horrible words down, and she was crazy. She was hostile and confrontational. No, why don't you look at it? She was scared.
Nobody ever stops to ask you. Yeah, nobody ever stops to ask you, why are you behaving like that? And they go through the motions of saying, oh, there's help out there. And then you reach out for the help. And then they don't actually ask the right questions.
Actually, what they do is they become a robot. If I'm honest, if you came to me as a stranger, I've never spoken to you before in my life, whether I'm a service or not a service, particularly, it doesn't matter. If you come to me and you give me time to talk, I've got to help you find places where you to go. Hey, darling, I'm not an expert. I've never been through what you've been through before, but I have heard of domestic violence helpline. I'll get that for you because you might not be. Can you read? Can you write? Are you dyslexic? I'll get that for you. In fact, I don't mind making contact. I know that people are wary about the repercussions about people. Oh, if he finds out I've done it. Now, there are ways to be discreet, but you need to provide the information. Now, first of all, your loyalties. Now, if you have a child or not a child, and everybody, I believe, at any age is someone's child.
Yeah.
So whether at 50, 60, 70, and you hear somebody's going through something, there are anonymous hotlines now.
Yeah.
You can call. You can call the police and make anonymous call. Although, why would you want to be anonymous? You need to be a witness to these people in some way or another. They've got procedures where they can hide you, take your statements. They can do all of these things to keep you safe somewhere along the line as a witness. But if you're a witness and you're hearing someone telling you what they're gone through, first of all, just because it's historic doesn't mean it isn't going on and it's still happening to somebody else in the community. Still can be reported. There are many people that bring their cases to the surface, especially when other people come out. When there's one, there's more. And when there's more, you become a task force of witnesses. And the person that's reporting whatever the domestic violence or any kind of abuse, what's going on, I understand that you're worried. And when there's children in there, well, I'm thinking about the children because we were children once and that happened to us. So we're trying to protect the children. We understand that if there is domestic violence, and I'm going to talk about domestic violence here right now, if there is domestic violence, likelihood is that once police are called and there's children in the home, you will have social services who too take kindly to any of this. Now, hold on a minute. If you don't want the social services brought into it, because I know that people say there are all kinds of things about them. If you don't want the social services involved, particularly, first of all, they will try and give you a warning. They'll give you a warning. I've had that warning. They made me have a choice. Your child or your husband. Your husband that beats you, your husband that tells you you can't do anything, your husband that treats you as if you're in a prison cell, your husband that labels the food, your husband that controls the money, your husband that controls the mileage, your husband that can control the way you work, who you work around, your husband that controls your telephone calls and monitors your even your internet, your husband that has your passwords, your husband that has your bank account. Who do you tell? Your husband has everything, I know, but this is the only opportunity. I have a witness, and that's the police. And that's my child that witnessed it too. And my husband at the time was telling me that your child needs to retract what he saw. And at the time, my child was like, but Mummy, I saw it. I saw you bang your head. I saw him hold you up against the wall. Mummy, I saw what he done. And my child got in the middle to protect. He'd had enough. And as you so rightly put somewhere along the line that I've written in some of my notes, that when you hear a child saying, leave him alone, stop, you know the child's sinned too much already. And I didn't for a split second. If my child hadn't been there, I know that my mind would have took me to, I need to protect myself. I would have stepped that up another level and I would have protected. I had nothing left to lose. It was him or me. In the best, I threatened with the police and I says, hey, I'd watched Tina Turner, you see. She was my inspiration. What's love got to do with it? And that watching that film and the amount of times that woman was mistreated, she said she had nothing left to lose anymore. And when he go, you can't tell anyone you love me, you would never call the police. I took a Tina Turner stance. What the hell love got to do with it? Because love hurts. And love shouldn't hurt. And that gave me the courage to call the police. You need the police on loudspeaker. And the police removed him from the home, and then lucky I had female police officers. If you are a woman of domestic violence or abuse, please do ask for a female officer.
They do actually ask you that. Would you like a female or a male? Would you mind a mixture? They do ask that. And
one other thing I want to point out is that even if you've ever called the police, you are entitled to victim support. Now, the police won't always tell you this. You can go and self-help, put it in on the research, you will get it. Victim support. I had one woman that helped me. I never had it through growing up. I never had it through the domestic violence. I had it in I can't remember the year. Memory doesn't take me back to the year. A few years back, I had victim support who I learned to communicate better and more effectively,
Yeah.
because I didn't want them to realize, I said, listen, I'm really petrified of how you're going to take me, how you're
Mm.
going to look at me, you're judging me, and I'm paranoid, but I have to tell you this is happening, but I need you to believe in me. Nobody
Mm.
ever believes in me. Why do it? And I started to think, when I kept speaking out, is it the color of my skin? Is it because of what I do? Is it because I help people? It was everything. I made excuses for why I shouldn't speak out, and I had to speak out. And
That always happens, doesn't it?
Yeah,
You start to make excuses so you don't do what you know deep down you need to do.
I started speaking out because I think it started with one in. It always starts with someone, doesn't it? Somebody with the courage who says, "No, this is abuse. What they're doing to you is," and they recognise
Not
what it is
right.
itself. So when somebody implements what it is, it starts to think, yeah, it is. Then you read. You don't just take the word as gospel. Oh my God, I'm abused. I've identified it. Research
Mm.
what it is.
Mm.
Do your research, because there's a lot of people that have done the research. They're
Mm.
writing it out and they're putting it on pen and paper. They're writing legislations against the abuse and the
Mm.
discrimination and the things that we're going through, and even child abuse and those things. So I've written down, even down to arranged marriages and things like this. There's a whole wealth of things that go with everyday life in the
People don't realize that just how much ripple effect comes from that one act. I once said to somebody, people might think, the perpetrators might think, oh, it's just a bit of fun. Yeah, for you it is a bit of fun, but what is it for for the other person? What is it? It's a whole life wasted, whole life ruined, and it's a years of constant battle,
mm-hmm.
internalized, which is the worst kind of battle. Physical battle that you can do out there and people can see and say, stop it, help, help, is better than battle that you fight in here by yourself.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad. I still, that inner child is still
It's there.
growing. I think as a child, when you witness things as a young age, and then you're affected by those things at a young age, that
Mm-hmm.
cycle is continuing. I think for me, finding my voice and saying no, I've lost friends, I've lost family, I've you know what? I don't take it as a loss. I take it as the universe is making a very big, bold statement. Come
Yeah.
away from the past, move forward, stop being judged by the past, find your newfound freedom, keep
Yeah.
speaking against this behavior, keep helping others. Sometimes these flashbacks, sometimes, it's not forgotten. It's not forgotten. And a particular incident of the here and now can trigger
Mm-hmm.
something. And that's where we need to talk to even our current partners or anybody that we're in, say, you know what, I know that you didn't do this, but that
Mm-hmm.
action that you've just done, it really just took me back to a place. Now if it does feel uncomfortable, perhaps you are doing that too,
Yeah.
because we're actually
Mm-hmm.
recognizing a sign, but maybe
Yeah.
you don't mean that you're doing it, but just be mindful that that behavior that
Yeah.
you're doing is recognizable in
Mm-hmm.
somewhere along the line in my past.
Yeah.
I have scars on my arms, and when I have to explain to children about
Mm-hmm.
my scars, why have you got scars on your arm, I have to do that in a kid friendly manner, but one of which still raises awareness.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said well, I hurt myself and I should have had someone to speak to.
Mm-hmm.
um and I do it where I said, but now I can't even wear any wedding dresses, or now I can't do all of these because people keep talking, and even you, darling, asked me a question about it. So I think it's best not to actually put these things on our body,
Yeah.
so and then I explain about, I needed someone to speak to, and then I have to talk to them in a way where I, it's always good to talk and be open about our feelings, and we should have someone to talk to
Mm.
in a way. But having to explain scars on your arm to children, it's not nice. It makes you feel uncomfortable. But then having to explain it to the adult, who is clearly, come on, I
Yeah.
look at people's arms and I don't have to ask the
You
question.
don't have to ask. You don't have to ask. I
I
actually think an adult asking you what what happened
It's
there
shock.
is sometimes it comes from a place of, because people will look at you and they think that could never happen to her, and then they look and they think, what?
What?
A
Why
minute.
did she do that?
Yeah,
Because at the time she didn't have anyone to talk to. Because at the
yeah.
time she was being
They're
so
only seeing the you
abused.
now. They don't actually know where you've been.
Yeah,
So they can't actually marry the fact, what they're seeing on your arms with what they see you as now, somebody who's survived, somebody who is way ahead in recovery.
and,
They don't
uh,
see that and they struggle. And then it's like, what
and
happened?
and this is the where I'd like to say to people, this is the prevention part of it. So when people are their anxiety levels are up, or they're having panics, and they're feeling lonely and isolated, and they're feeling depressed, this is where the self-mutilation can come into it, and that can go in any way.
Yeah,
Drink, drugs, alcohol, self-mutilation, overeating, undereating. There's a hell of a wealth. Even over exercising,
yeah.
even down to plastic procedures and things like that, over makeup. There's a lot of elements.
Overdressing,
Chuck them out,
overdressing.
darling. Chuck them out. Chuck him out. Come on, let's chuck him out.
Over matching. People think fashion is about matching things, and it's a demonstration that you actually are in touch with your beauty. But there's a different aspect to that. You are doing it to cover something.
Yes, and then even down to gambling. That's another
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
It comes in. Let's go back to the normal housewife that says they have no mental health, but
Mm,
maybe feeling a little bit insecure.
yeah.
So they can mask whatever they're feeling with a wealth and a bag of money if they want to. Yeah,
Mm, mm,
they can be spoiled, but
mm.
they're nourished and enriched with a money value. So take away the money, and we were brought up as poverty. So take
Yeah,
away the money. You can't. People buy lots and lots of stuff. They keep buying products because they think it's going to make them feel better. That's what I'm talking about. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
You
yeah.
get down to the nitty gritty. Some people mask a lot, and they mask it in others as well. So they hide behind a screen. So chuck them out over dressing, not dressing,
Yeah.
letting your hair go, letting your appearance go. Oh, hold on. Right, here's one. The appearance is a good thing, changing the appearance. That's a
Yeah.
big statement. Piling on the weight, that's another statement. Or
Mm,
losing weight, that's another statement. You know, Substance abuse, another statement. Self-isolation, self-harm comes in many ways, and that's what we're trying to project here. You
yeah.
know, um,
I
there's
had
so
some.
many ways.
I had somebody who said she made herself so fat and ugly so that men wouldn't see her beauty, so that they wouldn't approach her, because her abuser had told her that her beauty is what had caused the abuse. So
Okay.
for her, it was like, if I make myself look as ugly as possible, then they're not gonna come near me.
Yep.
Then I'm safe. But what
Right.
kind of safety is that?
Well, my head went there too, in my 20s.
Mm,
And I think this is where I started to have the breakdown, because I'd gone from one domestic violence straight into another. Obviously, you don't see it. Mr. Smooth Guy is different. You tell him about your previous, and therefore they got you. And
mm,
then something goes wrong for them. You become a victim of their attitude. You listen to the previous stories. They've got a pattern of it. Too late. You should have known that and dated them first before you got into it.
mm,
And one of those things that I did was take it out on my. I thought, I've got nothing left. One of the things I never wanted to do was touch my appearance, because I think that was the only thing that people said. Oh, you're beautiful, you're this, that, and the other. And when people tell you that,
mm.
you think, yeah, right, it comes
Yeah.
with consequences. It
Yeah.
comes with
Okay.
consequences. So the last resort for me, the last thing, I think my friend jumped on me, police jumped on top of me to stop me from self-mutilating my face. So I said, this is it. This is what beauty does to you,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
gets you beatings all the time, and it gets you where you're prisoner in your own home and you're barricading your doors. Then I don't want it anymore. So that was a time where I decided to almost defect my face, and that is not, then I would have walked around with that for the rest of my life, and then I wouldn't, it would have been horrible.
It
So
would
I'm
have gotten
glad,
worse.
so glad that I was prevented and I was sectioned at that time. I got sectioned, which is a 136 in police terms, and I was sectioned, and that's when I decided to open up. No,
Yeah.
I
When
didn't. Sorry, I didn't. I'd opened up the first time, but because I got myself in a second time around into another domestic violence, I decided that I was going to make myself look like an idiot, make excuses for him. I didn't tell him. I then become stalked. I didn't tell anyone. I became stalked. And so, again, that pattern, you see. So it is, you might tell someone the first time, but the second time that it happens again, you might not, because of judgment. And then how do you get yourself out of it again? And sometimes a lot of people, what they do is to replace the abuser with another abuser who feels, I'll protect you. And so you've got the rescuing element going on constantly
you want to
throughout
be
these
rescued.
relationships, and then all of those relationships somewhere along the line have become manipulating, and they've homed in on your vulnerability because they become the rescuer. And
Yeah, they'll
this
tell
is,
you, I'll never do what he did to you. I'm better than that. You know, like he didn't deserve you. He shouldn't have done that to you. And because you're in that position where you want somebody to believe that this was horrible that happened to you and you want rescuing, you are very easily drawn into believing it. And before you know it, boom, you're in that position again. And you're thinking, I can't even tell people about this because they're going to be thinking, why do you keep putting
going
your
back, and this is the put off for victims that are going through it. I'm going to take an example. I told you, I told you they were no good. I told you to stay away. When people say, I told you so, oh, you make yourself unapproachable, because we actually already know that you're going to say that, but we
yeah.
don't want to hear the words. We just need a solution to how we can keep safe and move. Many of these, the problem that I had is that I was in a position with children. Hold on, this guy won't move from this house that I so happen to share. It was mine at the beginning, but he forced me to try and purchase my home. He forced me and blackmailed me over my home. So again, you see, when you've got children involved, you're thinking about them. Where am I going to go? I've got nowhere to go. And so you tolerate it even more. And then the place of safety may be your parents. But eventually you think, I'm being judged here as well. I'm going to go back. I've got nowhere to go. But the council is your option. They have a legal duty under the Homeless Act 1996 to help you if you are a victim of any kind of abuse within your home.
Yeah.
If you cannot live there before, the woman's refuge is available. The victim support is available. I suggest, if you are a victim of domestic violence, sometimes, for myself, I'm not suggesting everyone do it, the police may not always be your best bet straight away, unless you're in immediate physical danger. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about, I'm in this situation, I've heard it relates to me and I want to get out of it, I need you to do a safety plan and if you're speaking to one person, they must have something about you that they can pass on an immediate effect of any danger. The thing is, the safety plan has to come into it. Where can you run during COVID times? You can get out. You can get out. The council, as I said, has a duty. You have the woman's refuge. The thing is, the problem that I had is that for me, and I think I don't know what it was, but demand to be taken in. in a woman's refuge, if you
Yeah.
are even a single woman, because I was turned away when I was going through acts of crime. I was turned away because that person wasn't my husband and it wasn't my boyfriend. So that's another element of crime.
Yeah.
And I was turned away from the refuge, and I believe they shouldn't have turned me away. They should have helped me.
Yeah.
The
Protecting
way
you.
they put me back in the same situation. So demand support from these people that are being funded to help you,
To help
give
you.
you
Yeah.
with the information. So for me, I'm about just providing as much information that I've learned along my journeys. I'm always try and say, let's not name and shame so we can get more information out. Um, your burden, whatever someone's doing, you're not responsible for their hands on you or their mouth
Yeah.
on you,
Yeah.
shouting and screaming. If you are doing it too, I understand that you might want to control your anger, but if that person's in your environment, try and take yourself out to cool down. Some people don't mean to scream and shout. They don't mean to do it. They got in the habit of doing it to get the attention, get something said. So it has to become a communication way. If you can't do it verbally, write it down, address it one way or another in writing. But anger has to be addressed, and it works both ways.
Yeah.
Men get abused,
Yeah.
women get abused. It works
Yeah.
both ways. There's no
Yeah.
wrongs, there's no rights here, and there's no discrimination when it comes to abuse. It's the person that you meet and your choice
And
in your circle.
that's another aspect as well, where people believe it's only men that are violent towards women. And because of this label that men are stronger than women, those men that are being abused would never imagine talking about it, because then they think, what kind of a man are they going to think I am?
I think a
But
man
we,
that doesn't hit a woman should be really extremely very proud,
yeah,
and that your whoever raised you with some
well,
morals and respect. And those men out there that are fighting this depression and wants to tell someone, well, the Mom Project is here, and I'll
mm,
get you all the help that I can. I'm not going
mm,
to signpost you off.
mm,
I'll get you all the help that I can to help you with the situation that you're in. You don't have to live in that situation either. There are plenty of men in this situation. There is a
yeah,
refuge for men too. So you don't have to be alone. Just speak to survivors, ones that know one. It takes one to know one. You know,
mm,
I'm I'm not ashamed, and
mm,
I will do what it takes to protect me and
mm,
remove the stigma what
yeah,
is in the community. And thank you very much for doing that as well, because that's what you're
mm,
doing here,
yeah,
asking me questions to,
yeah.
simple questions like this.
It gets things out
Get it
there.
out.
Yeah, it gets things out there, and people really need to hear the right things from the right people.
That right. So we have Zoom, don't we? Every Wednesday, open talk. It's just this place you want to move forward in life, have
Yeah,
someone to talk to and help someone to set you up a little business plan and all the things that
yeah,
you really, really want to do, so you can focus on what's ahead rather than focus in the bottle if you're in one, or on drugs if you're on them. Because if you've relapsed before, you know what it takes to get out of it.
to
But the
get out of
thing
it.
is
Yeah,
about prevention. So what we're trying to do is prevent relapse. We're
and you,
preventing us resorting back inwardly, and we're
mm,
trying to prevent that depression. So that's why
mm,
we keep talking. That's why I particularly keep talking, so I don't feel alone. Because you might think that I'm busy, but here I am alone right now.
yeah,
If it
yeah,
wasn't for your conversation, my
mm,
phone isn't ringing. So
mm,
therefore, I'm still experiencing, for myself, an unknown place of. I've always been surrounded by people, but now suddenly I've had to choose who I want around me as a
yeah,
way of protection. So
yeah,
now sometimes that's very limited. So I put myself on a support, have a support network around me. It's a
mm,
mom support network around me, like-minded, which is Mind Over Matter. And there
mm,
are survivors, and we keep each other up.
yeah. And sometimes being around a lot of people does not necessarily mean that you feel included. So don't think, oh, now I'm spending too much time on on my own. It means I'm alone. You can be alone in a crowd.
Absolutely,
If
because I
people
felt
don't,
that.
yeah, you can be alone in a big crowd and still feel like you stand out because
Yeah,
there's that stuff inside that you haven't dealt with.
y-
And I think everybody deserves to be the best possible person they can be. And that won't happen until you get rid of all this baggage that you keep inside.
So let me ask you a question, and this is hot on the lips of a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know, when we accuse people of being a paedophilia,
Hmm.
and we're making the accusation because they've been accused, so therefore
Hmm.
there's the accusation fight. We then we indulge in their background of where it come from. Oh, they must have been abused themselves, etc., etc. You know, we watched something the other day which was repulsed. We were
Repulsion.
repulsed at someone saying it's normal. Um, Someone saying you're born that way, and
What?
I was absolutely repulsed to hear that they were saying that people are that go out to abuse people are born that way. I was quite repulsed about it. I said to myself that we learn things and learn behavior. We're groomed into certain elements. That's what's right and what's wrong. And it's not until you recognize what's right and what's wrong can you break that cycle.
Cycle. Yeah. Yeah.
However, once you make an accusation that something happened to you along in your childhood, people are saying, well, if you're going to accuse them, what makes you think that you ain't an abuser as well then?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see? You see the
This. This.
judgment.
This is this. Yeah.
I'll tell you what makes us not an abuser is raising awareness around it, okay? To not have any secrets, to
Yeah.
teach right, for me, when I work with people, I don't want to be that alone worker because
Yeah.
people that have got mental health like to make accusations.
Hmm.
So whether or not they've got a label or not, behavior is behavior.
Yeah. And
And the blame
sometimes.
game goes on, doesn't it, a lot?
And sometimes secrets actually create platforms for you to be victim. If somebody's going to gossip about me, that's
Mm.
a platform for people to say, for it to escalate. But if I put myself out there and I say, boom, 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 this is me. So what are you gonna gossip about now?
Exactly that's what I said. I'm transparent, I'm open, I'm honest, and those at the end of the day want to judge me, I don't care. You have not walked in my shoes. And if
Yeah,
you'd like to look at my medical records, if you'd like to look at my perhaps any of my background, please do, because at the end of the day, I'm in a position now where I got my act together. I'm
yeah, and
legal,
it
I'm
doesn't
aligned,
mean
I'm a
anything.
survivor. I didn't sit there and feel sorry for myself. I done something about it. So what you actually hear often is people that say, I just want to help someone. I want to prevent it from happening to them. Well, I made sure that I did that. And it took me to get company behind me. But at the end of the day, I'm actually being taken serious just because I
Yeah,
had to do that. I should have been taken serious even
right from
without
the
that.
start. Yeah,
Yeah. But so I think this is the difference between what the Mom Project has to offer is, as you pointed out rightly, I am a survivor. I have a lived experience. So
yeah,
therefore, I think it takes one to know one. We're relatable and we're
yeah,
just trying to find the way out for people so they can live a life of abundance and not feel alone, isolated, and not feel ashamed.
yeah,
And if people if people know they're doing something wrong, then seek help for that,
yeah,
because you can
yeah. That's what I
you,
said. Seek
you
help.
seek help for it because you've been taught many things
Hmm.
that in your eyes it may not feel right,
Hmm.
but somebody might have taught you something. And if
Yeah,
if it doesn't feel right, ask somebody about it, because it may not be right and you are right that it
yeah.
could be abuse. It
Hmm.
is what it is and it is what it's going on. So don't hide a secret. And I understand that you want to protect other people and there's that you might get threats behind
But there's a
your
way around that. There's a way around
be
that.
safe,
Mm.
be let's get all your information you need to have an escape plan of safety and to pick up support the other end or wherever you're going. You're not going to be alone. Any more questions, please?
Not
My
really, but
my
what
name's
I would
Kerry.
should have started with that.
Sorry.
I was actually just going to say before we go, what is your advice to people who know somebody who is a victim, to people who maybe are living with somebody who has been a victim? Because a lot of people struggle to understand certain behaviors. We talked about behaviors that come from having experienced violence, abuse, and all that. But then some people shy away, not because they don't want to help, but because they don't know how to help. Is there any resources that people can access to help them help the one that needs help? Because I think that's an area that's rarely talked about.
Yes, there is. I will put the numbers and domestic violence helpline, victim support, police, immediate. I'm going to put that. I'll put that information here also. But again, you've got the Mom Project, which is www.momproject.co.uk. But you can actually, I understand technology, all right? And that may be a bit of a pain in the bum when you want to speak to someone.
Yeah.
My telephone number, 0777 060 1567. Now, I'm a normal person. I can give advice as much as I want, as much as I can, but I'm a normal person. As I said, I'm just a survivor. So if you can imagine your life and my life, I'm going to do my best to get the information to you. Don't hold me responsible for if you can't get hold of me, because technology sometimes plays a big part of communication for me. And sometimes those steady lines, I'm just an option of a reality one-to-one that you can talk to. I could put you in a setting of open talk where other people as survivors can give you information of where to go. We had somebody yesterday that actually felt suicidal and also wanted to avoid going back on heroin. So one of the members, particularly on the Mom Project Mental Health Awareness Real Talk, when we see people asking for help, we put in information so they can get that in the area that they're at as much as we can. We're all listening on that page as much as we can. Those that shy away and don't implement, when someone's saying, please help, that word help is there. That means, please, everybody pay attention. Don't leave it to somebody think, oh my God, they've answered the question. Still go and check. Pile in more information. Check in the inbox to make sure that person's all right. Hand over the information. My telephone number I've given you, the website I've given you. Facebook is for everyone on the page. It's an open group. The Ask No methods are promoted. You know, when you put in a newspaper article up, if it says that how somebody committed suicide, we don't want that on there. We don't need that on there. We just know that they passed away, but we don't need to know how, but we need to prevent it. So those are the things. No naming and shaming. If you want to talk about an organization, you can do indirectly without naming and shaming. Therefore, you can get your voice heard. These are the things, and therefore what you're looking for is a solution. So, you know, you've got the domestic violence. There's enough information there. There's enough survivors there to give you of what did they do? How did they get out of it? What plan did they do? What could you do? What's available for the kids? There's even, when it comes to the social services, the people that we interact with as well to help you with getting support and advice around your children's safety and what do you call them? Something orders. Oh gosh. Okay, I told you I'm a normal person. Okay, non-molestation orders.
Okay.
These are things that can keep you safe and in place of residency. All of these things that need, especially when you've got children, All of these things need to be taken in consideration. And you are going to be judged. We understand that when you've got children. We understand you will be judged. Duty of care, you may be an adult, but those children need a chance to grow. And if you don't want them in the situation, then find a way to keep you and them safe. Yeah. So we're here. What about you? Do you know anything where they can go? I'm going to pass it right back to you.
Well, you have actually
Absolutely
said all of them, but I also say that I'm out there, I'm available. Sometimes people feel that going directly to the authorities, like the police, is quite daunting for them.
Absolutely.
And some people are even, I've had experiences where somebody has said to me, can you go on the internet for me and Google this for me and then give it to me? Because there's this thing now going on that our use of the World Wide Web, our use of social media and technology is being monitored. You only have to type a word and then you start seeing all these things popping up around you. And it makes some people feel like they're being stalked on the internet. So they think if I start searching about domestic violence, if I start searching about helping with somebody's going to start thinking maybe there's something that I've done or something that, so they're not comfortable doing it. They'd rather reach out to somebody. And I'm saying I don't mind having my records looking into such things. If it's gonna help somebody, I don't mind. So if you want, if you want off the line to talk, messenger.
In the Mom Project, there's a mentorship on the Facebook, and you can sign up for mentorship. There's guidance, guidelines there, and everything else that you can go through. But you can actually sponsor and mentor somebody to encourage them to get up for the day. It's switched on. Sign up for the mentorship, whatever. What you've got to offer. That's all there. A little bit of writing. It's just like your little it's like a little CV. What you can offer.
I'll get on to that. Yeah.
Okay. To put out here, we'll wrap this through. Thank you for your interview. You're interviewing me, ain't you? But I'm just going to put this out. You can wrap it up, but I'm going to put this out. National Domestic Helpline UK is 0808 2000 247. I'll say it again, and I'm going to put it in a different way because I know what the brain does. 0808 2000 247. I'll say it one more time in another way. 0808 2000 247. See how the mind read that in 3 different ways. Please do get help. It's good to talk to them first before you actually go to the police. I'm saying this really because sometimes I've had my experiences with police in the past and they haven't been pleasant. They've actually added towards my trauma and made me not want to go back again. I'm trying to bridge the gap here between the mom and the people that want to speak out in many ways and more ways than one. So I'm offering the helpline there to get your information, victim support, to get your information. You can email, to them and they will email you. Again, be very careful of your perpetrators monitoring your computers and your devices because they sometimes put spyware on and go the other end and put passwords on in case you get logged out to the suppliers. That happened to me. And therefore, I thought, how does he know that I was on this or do that? And he had put spyware on my devices. Be very careful of those tracking devices. I'm just giving you tips. So that you have to find a way of safety. You have to find a way of getting a message out there. And you have to find a way of getting help. Don't be silenced. Don't be alone. We're here. And if you're reading and hearing this anyway, you actually already know that we're available. Aren't we?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Thank you very much for taking this time. Your wealth of knowledge in this area, I'm sure it has touched somebody, even if it's just one person.
That's enough.
That is enough, because it starts with that one person.
Absolutely.
Whatever impact you've made on that one person, there's going to be a ripple effect from that person. So yeah, thanks for taking your time to just give.
Thank you for giving back.
Anytime. Bye bye.